You have to be strategically selfish at times. Sometimes more than others, you're going to have to be, because at the end of the day, those guys had to do what they had to do. Love it or hate it, right? Forget the backlash, forget everything else. What is the goal? What is the objective? What is the mission? What is the dream? At some point, you have to ask yourself, what is it going to take for me to get there? What's up, guys? How's it going? I think you know who it is, right? Is that like my best joke? I'll come up with another one. But it's your boy Raheel, Siddiqui, aka the Wall Breaker. Welcome to Wall Breaker 200, episode 8. I am your host, Raheel Siddiqui himself, and wanted to thank you guys for tuning in today, and really excited to be here as always, and let's get it going. You know, one topic really in particular that really stuck to me that I wanted to discuss today was how to be selfish. Hopefully after you hear my episode, you'll kind of get where I'm going, but I want to have a real deep discussion about being selfish. And what I mean by that, being selfish in terms of when it comes to hitting your goals specifically, right? Or trying to achieve whatever you are trying to achieve. And I feel like this is a really important topic and a really important subject. And I'm really hoping that, again, once I kind of dive into it and give examples and, kind of really talk this through with you guys, I'm really hoping you understand where I'm coming from. So let's get this thing kicked off here. So, it's funny when I think about the word selfish, especially as a kid growing up, you think the word is what it is, right? Oh my God, selfish. I don't have the dictionary in front of me, but selfish, the term selfish, or I will just paraphrase when, one is thinking about themselves, or one only care about themselves, or it's about me, and nothing else, right? So to kind of paraphrase, but, as I got older in life and as I went on this journey that I went on to losing 200 pounds and, just looking, observing, watching other people in their craft, in particular athletes and in particular professionals, whatever you are, but I guess to the core, more specifically in like the sports, athletic realm, health, fitness realm per se. But I think the one thing that I really learned over time was, if you want to be successful, and this obviously pertains to, I feel like in any avenue in life, again, but I'm just going to key in on the health, fitness, wellness, motivational space, like my arena per se, but I do feel like it does apply anywhere else. But for you to be successful in whatever path that you are deciding to take, especially in a journey when it comes to your health, fitness, wellness, motivation journey, man, you have to be selfish. I mean, you have to have times where you need to think about yourself. And let me dig in a little deeper, okay? So I want to make sure that I'm clear here. So, I know I talked about my previous episodes about sacrifice, about not quitting, and, kind of like along those lines. But I want to dig a little deeper in terms of the pure reason as to why, when you have a mindset and you are locked in on that mindset and you tell yourself, you know what, this is what I got to do, and I got to do this. And when you have that mindset of, I got to do this, you end that sentence with, I got to do this for me, right? I didn't lose 200 pounds for anyone else. And what I mean by that is, of course, like, if you know my story by now, I started this because of the promise that I made to my dad. And of course, like my son, my wife, my family, of course, like, I do what I do every single day for them. But in the end, man, in the core of my soul, and it goes back to my last episode too, right? Which I talked about, like, I can't tell everyone that my family comes first in my life because my training comes first. So that means I have to put myself first in that aspect, right? I have to be the best version for my family every single day, 24/7. And the only way I'm going to be the best version of myself for my family is making sure that I get my training done every single day, because that is when I'm at my purest form, my top physical and mental form. as a father, as a husband, as a friend, as an employee, as a colleague, as any element in my life, right? So that comes with being selfish, right? I know that no matter what, I have to get my workout in, no matter what. Any vacation I ever go on, any event that's coming up, if I have a work event, I don't care. If it's at like 7 o'clock in the morning, I'll get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, right? I'm gonna find a way to get it done. And, respectfully, if I need to have a conversation, with my wife about schedules, or I got to figure something out with work, or whatever the case is, or even in the past, just when I started my journey of just, tying into the sacrifice piece of it a little bit, like not attending weddings, not attending events, not attending dinners, etc. That's more on the sacrifice side. I think that's also selfish too. But my point is going back to the root of being selfish. It's like, I got to do what I got to do. I got to do this for me. And I feel like that's the whole point of what I'm trying to tell you guys. It's like, you have to be selfish in order to find true success in what you are trying to achieve. And I'm not saying that it has to be like that 24/7, right? I guess the best way I can really word it or give a term, and I thought about this a lot, was being strategically selfish, right? Being strategically selfish. So I feel like you're going to have spots and moments where you will have to be selfish. You need to be selfish without a doubt. And those are the moments you're going to have to cash in and do that for yourself. So let me give you some examples. So I know I talked about, a couple sports examples, but really quick, for my sports fans out there, right? And I know this one's going to hit home to a lot of you guys, but a guy like LeBron James, right? First and foremost. So I'll be the first one to say, man, I couldn't stand him. I was young. I just didn't care. I thought everything about him was just, I couldn't stand the guy, right? But then, as I got older, I just don't care anymore. Like, hey, man, great job. 22 years in the league. You had a great career, all-time leading scorer, done a lot for the game of basketball. And, I'm sure it's going to end one day, right? But, I think that just comes with growth and maturity, right? But besides that, and again, I left the debating business a long time ago, but my point is that when you look at a guy like LeBron James, for example, I'm using him specifically, and I'll use some other examples too. But when I think of a guy like that, I think what strikes me about him is back when he left in 2008, when he left the Cavs to go to Miami, and he made that whole big decision on ABC, or I think it was ABC, whatever news channel he did, and in front of the kids, and taking my talents to South Beach, and him, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh did that whole little rock concert about not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8. That whole thing just obviously rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I told you guys straight up. I mean, I thought that was a clown move too, whatever. But then, obviously that was 2008. What is that, like 17 years ago, right? 16, whatever, 17 years ago, right? So, but my point is that, when I reflect on a guy like that, right, just giving that specific example, I'm just a regular fan, right? I'm like a nobody. Like, if you gave my name to a guy like LeBron, he's gonna be like, okay, yeah, I don't even know who the hell this guy is. Good for him. Whether I loved him, if I was like the biggest fan on planet Earth, or I despised him, like or mocked him every day like a Skip Bayless, right? But my point about going to LeBron, and specifically when he left Cleveland to go to Miami, was, he was in Cleveland for 7 years. He never won a championship, right? And if you guys are sports fans out there, which I'm sure a lot of you are, a lot of my followers are, I think he had to make a decision, right? And go figure the decision. But what I mean by that is he had to make a decision that, you know what, I got to do this, and I got to do this for myself, right? Because he played 7 years in Cleveland, and I'm sure the pressure weighed on him. I'm sure he wanted to deliver them a championship. I mean, he's the homegrown kid from Akron, Ohio, right next to Cleveland. It was his responsibility. He felt like at the time to bring them a championship, he couldn't do it, right? And there were a lot of pundits out there, a lot of people out there can make all the arguments, right? Not enough help. He went up against a juggernaut Spurs team, whatever the case is, right? But in the end is when he had a choice to leave Cleveland. And again, I think in my history, I mean, probably ever in basketball history, no one's ever really seen a superstar in their peak apex prime leave their franchise to go somewhere else, right? In the 80s, it was like Bird and Magic, right? It's like you would never think Bird would go play anywhere else. Like, he would never play in a Lakers uniform, or Magic would play in a Celtics uniform. You would never think Jordan would play in a Pistons uniform, etc. Right? I mean, but that was just like the era, right? But I think when LeBron left Cleveland to go to Miami in that moment, I think a couple things, really came to his mind at that point. It was one, do I want to go down to be one of those all-time greats to like never win a championship? Right? Obviously, his peers were starting to win, right? Shaq, Kobe started to win. Tim Duncan had just won a title. I feel like, in my opinion, at least, and I'm sure if you asked him that too, I mean, maybe when he retires or even now, I'm not sure, but I feel like, I think in that moment he was just thinking, dude, I don't want to go down my entire career being named as an all-time great, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? I'm a diehard Knicks fan. If people don't know, you know, grew up watching the '90s Knicks. They couldn't get it done. Obviously, with Stockton and Malone couldn't get it done, and Sean Kemp and Gary Payton couldn't get it done, and Charles Barkley couldn't get it done, and obviously, thank you, Michael Jordan, for making all that happen for all of us. But my point is that LeBron had to do what he had to do, right? He had to do it, and he thought about himself, and he had to become strategically selfish, right? He knew, you know what, my best chances of winning a championship and actually gaining traction in the championship rings category, and also kind of elevating my career trajectory. If I want to go down as like a top 10, top 7, top 5, or top whatever player, whatever you guys want to rank him as, he knew he had to start winning, and he had to win championships. I mean, getting to the semifinals, conference finals, it wasn't enough, man. He had to find a way to get it done. And lo and behold, he went to Miami. They got their ass kicked in the first finals, right? And then you guys heard me talk about when Dwayne Wade had to sacrifice, right? He really had to sacrifice that role. I think a big reason why they lost was because I feel like that's exactly what was missing for them. It was they were just three amazing players, top talents, but it was Dwayne Wade's team. And I think that summer he had to reflect back and be like, I'm not the man anymore. I have a guy who's younger, he's bigger, he's faster, he's stronger, and it's his time, and I got to give the keys to him to drive the car home. And then Miami ended up winning the next two, right? They won 2 out of 4 when they had their, big three together. So I look at a guy like him, when I think of the perspective of a guy like a LeBron, it's like, whether you love it or hate it, right? And whether you despise him or you love him, he's a very polarizing figure in the game of basketball. But I think in the end, it's kind of like, if you look at it from his lens, he had to do what he had to do. He had to do what he had to do. He had to do it for himself, and at the end of the day, he ended up getting 2 titles out of that deal, right? Versus, we'll never know what would have happened had he stayed in Cleveland his entire career. But I think an example like that is a great example of what I mean about being strategically selfish, right? He was very strategic in being selfish and finding a way to extend the longevity of his career, because he wanted to play on a team that he had more weapons with, and then also winning rings, right? Like, also being in those conversations, not being left behind the Kobes, the Shaqs, the Duncans, etc., the peers that were really coming up, winning at that time. And then also sticking on the basketball side, like I talked about him too, like Kevin Durant, right? Same exact kind of scenario, right? Like, Kevin Durant was up, Oklahoma City, they blew the 3-1 lead. KD opts to leave as a free agent to go to Golden State. He got a lot of backlash, bully on the block. The bullies on the block, they just beat you. If you can't beat them, join them, KD, etc. And everyone thought it was a weak move. And obviously, I'm guilty of saying that too. I thought it was too. But at the end of the day, again, looking back at it from a perspective of, I'm older now and I'm out of the debate business. But I think a guy like him is an absolute perfect example of being strategically selfish, right? KD was just known as an amazing player. His peers, same thing. They were just winning. All they were doing was winning championships. Now you got Steph Curry coming in, winning rings, right? LeBron already had a few under his belt. Wade with LeBron as well. And guys were winning rings, and his peers were, they were known as winners, and he wasn't. And obviously, blowing that lead, again, it goes back to, who do you want to blame? However they lost, they lost. Who would have known if they stayed together? Him in Oklahoma City. But at the end of the day, whether you love it or hate it, KD went to Golden State. They ended up winning 2 championships. He was Finals MVP, I think, in both of them, if I'm not mistaken. And he also was strategically selfish, right? He was like, I got to do what's best for me. I mean, I don't want to be another all-time great like the rest of the guys that I named earlier and be known as a guy that just never won, right? And I think that's the one thing that a lot of these legends whether they admit it or not, I think to the core, they do want to win a championship, right? They don't want to be remembered as the guy that is not won a championship. Again, to me personally, I got respect for all those legends. I grew up, that was the core of my era, right? All of those guys. But I think obviously at the end of the day, it just comes down to what do you want, man? Like, right? And you got to do what's best for you in certain moments. And I feel like when I think of those two guys specifically, like a LeBron going to Miami, like a Kevin Durant going to Golden State, very similar parallel type scenarios where you were with your original team, you couldn't win a championship, your peers, everybody was winning, the pundits were criticizing you. Can you guys ever win the big one? You opt to leave. That was your right to go to another team, a better team, better organization, and you ended up winning 2 championships each for those respective organizations. And now you guys are going to go down as, Hall of Famers, but you guys have rings now, right? So I think when you think 20, 30, 40 years from now, whatever they're doing in their life, they could always be like, you know what, whether you loved it or hated it, I still got my rings. I still got my rings. I mean, there's nothing you guys can say about that. You can love me, you can hate me, you can put me on a pedestal, or you can spit in my face, but I still got my rings, man. So I did what I had to do for me, right? So I think those 2 examples right there, I feel like, I hope, give you guys some context about where I'm coming from, right? And then I think I'm going to go a little old school with this, is like a guy like Deion Sanders, right? I mean, God, I freaking love that guy. I mean, he's just awesome. What a great coach. Colorado, how he raised Shador. Now he's about to go in the draft right now. I just love his moxie, love his drive. I grew up in that era watching him in his apex prime, man, Atlanta and San Fran and Dallas. But, going back to a guy like that, a little bit further out, right? Deion went to San Fran, won the title. It was that off season, right? What was he going to do? Where was he going to go? And everyone was like, should he come back? San Fran was a juggernaut because they won the Super Bowl and, they could probably run it back and do it again and all this and all that, decisions. And he said he had I think when they were doing the Madden commercial, he had to wear 17 jerseys because he was a free agent. He didn't know where he wanted to go. And lo and behold, where does he go? He goes to the rival Cowboys, right? Like San Fran and Dallas, if you guys remember the football times, they hated each other, right? That was the ultimate rivalry. I mean, San Fran literally got over the hump, finally beating Dallas after losing to them for so long because of Deion Sanders. He single-handedly put them over the top. And then what does he do? He was like, look, I had to do what's best for me. He was strategically selfish. He was like, you know what? Dallas is giving me the money. I look good in the star. I got Aikman, Emmett, and Urban still at the tail end of their primes. Yeah, all right. I mean, I just beat y'all, so now I'll come join you guys. And what happened? He just beat them. He ended up joining them. They won the Super Bowl. Deion Sanders, 2 Super Bowls back to back. I mean, that is a boss mic drop move. Greatest cornerback ever. Probably the greatest athlete, honestly, ever, man. I mean, playing freaking baseball and then running track. I mean, if you watch some of his documentary stuff, I mean, it's incredible. But even just in general, the people that just know his story, I mean, playing professional baseball, playing professional football, being a freak athlete, and I just love everything about him now. Just as a dad, how he preaches, how he talks, how he coaches, his moxie, his demeanor. I love it. But long story short, just to give the core example of my episode about being strategically selfish, those are like the core examples that I really truly think of, right? At the end of the day, those guys had to do what they had to do. Love it or hate it, right? Forget the backlash, forget everything else. What is the goal? What is the objective? What is the mission? What is the dream? At some point, you have to ask yourself, what is it going to take for me to get there? What do I need to do to get there? All right. We talked about not quitting. We talked about sacrifice. We talked about discipline. We could talk about motivation. We could talk about meal plans. We could talk about diet plans. We could talk about, even if it's not health or fitness or motivation related, right? Studying harder, staying more hours at work to try to get that promotion, whatever it is, right? But you have to be strategically selfish at times. Sometimes more than others, you're going to have to be, because at the end of the day, if that's what you want, if your goal, like those guys, their goals strictly was to win championships, right? Love it or hate it. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about my opinion. They don't care about your opinion. They don't care about our opinion, man. But they had to do what they had to do, and I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm at peace with it. I mean, I truly am. I'm at peace with the fact that those guys did what they had to do. They were strategically selfish. And, it is what it is, right? I mean, kudos to them. And looking back at it, again, like I told you, it's like at the end of the day, nobody can take that from them. They had to do what they had to do. They hit their goals. They reached whatever they were trying to reach, and they did it because they were strategically selfish, right? So, and I think just moving along, right? I think it just comes down to you're going to also tying into being strategically selfish. Now, if you're somebody who is on a path and on a journey and trying to reach those goals, those dreams, that destination, you're also going to have to make some tough decisions, and you're going to have some tough conversations, right? Just like those guys did. LeBron had to have a tough conversation with the Cavs, and Kevin Durant had to have tough conversations with the Thunder, and I'm sure Deion had to have tough conversations with San Francisco when they were all leaving their teams, and they all were beloved in the fan base, and they were all, wanting to stay, or the people wanted them to stay, whatever. But they had to do what they had to do, and they did. Right? They had to do what they had to do, and they did it for themselves, no matter what. So my point is that you also have to find a way to have tough conversations. And I'm being dead serious when I say this, man. Like, even if it's with friends, family members, significant others, whatever, if you are somebody that set a goal for yourself and you're like, you know what, I'm going to hit this goal, and you really lock it in, man, to the goddamn core in your heart and your soul and everything inside of you, you're like, I got to hit this goal no matter what, you're going to have some tough conversations. You're going to have to sit down some people, friends, family members, your loved ones, your spouse, significant other, and you got to tell them, look, I got to do what I got to do for me. And I need you to support me on this. And I think it ties into like the sacrifice piece, right? I can't go to this event. I can't go to this wedding. I can't go around this area where there's going to be a lot of food, a lot of temptation, a lot of backlash, a lot of criticism, a lot of people saying something, people coming up to me asking questions, not being in a comfortable setting. And I think also piggybacking off of that, also I think another great point that I want to bring to everybody here also is, remove negative energy from your life too, right? That's also being strategically selfish. And what I mean by that is, man, if you are in scenarios and settings, or you're around people, or you're in places where it's negative energy and you feel like it's a toxic environment, or you feel like it's not doing any justice, it's not bringing any value to you, then remove yourself. Get up and leave and walk out. You have to do what's best for you in so many moments of your life to truly reach that pinnacle, to truly reach those goals. I mean, I just gave you probably 3 of the best examples I could think of, man. Like, I mean, no matter what, you can't be scared and you can't be worried about what others think. Those guys didn't give a shit about what anyone thought. They had to do what they had to do. And it is what it is. I can't hate on that, right? I can't. Like, you had to do what you had to do. You didn't have any rings when you were staying, you went and got your rings when you left. Again, I'm not debating anything at all. I'm just giving you the pure facts, okay? I'm just giving facts. I'm not here to debate whether it was weak or it was this or it was that. I already told you guys how I felt about all that. It's not about that. That's not the point of it. The point of it is, if you're sticking to what I'm saying, it's you had to do what you had to do. You had to do what was best for you in that moment. That's exactly what those guys did, and that's what I'm telling you that you guys need to do. You have to find a way to tell yourself, you know what? I got to be strategically selfish here, man. I got to figure this out, and I got to do what's best for me. And whatever it is, whatever it takes, I got to find a way. And I think another like final point to this is, if you guys are, speaking of sports, like Last Dance, right? If you watch The Last Dance with Michael Jordan and the Bulls that got released during COVID, when Jordan gave that clip, when he got very emotional, he was like, look, people might call me a tyrant, and I'm paraphrasing, but people might call me a tyrant, this and that, whatever. But, if you didn't like the way that I played, then get out, right? I played the way that I played. And, Michael Jordan would never ask anybody else what to do that he wouldn't do himself. And then he got really emotional and choked up. And, if you don't want to play that way, then don't play that way. And then, then he was like, break, right? It was a really powerful scene, but you could see how bad he wanted to win, man. He just wanted to win so bad. Right? So getting his guys going was being strategically selfish, right? I mean, let's just face it, he was being a dick. I mean, he punched like Steve Kerr in the face, like, elbowing guys in practice, telling Scott Burrell he was trash. Like, God, this guy was the ultimate shit talker, right? I mean, that's where Kobe got it from, right? Like, trying to find ways, being strategically selfish because they wanted to win. Like, guys like Jordan and Kobe, their mindset was, dude, I got to win. Like, I'm not here to fuck around. I'm here to win championships, right? So if I got to do what I got to do, if I got to be a dick, I'm not going to be here and be your homeboy and be your best friend. Like, no, I need you to step up. I need you to be tough. I need you to help me win because I'm not going to lose because of you, right? I'm here to win. And if you hear it in my voice, that's exactly how I feel every day. I'm not here to be like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Like, I think I get really sick and tired, and I might be a little intense about this, but I'm just being honest. Like, I get really sick and tired of when people will make comments, and not like in an ignorant way or not like in a passive aggressive way, but people will just be like, oh man, like, man, is there like a need to even work out like that anymore? I mean, why don't you tone it down? You don't need to go 7 days a week. You don't need to lose this much anymore. You don't need to do. I'm like, I die for this. I mean, this is everything to me. My training, I told you guys, man, it's everything to me. I live and I breathe it. When I'm not training, all I do is think about training. Okay? When I'm not training, all I do is think about training. I want to win. Okay? I want to win. I'll be the first one to tell you, man, I'm strategically selfish when it comes to my training. So many times I had to give up so many things. I had to not go to events. I had to take myself out of toxic situations. I had to remove myself from toxic situations. I had to, keep distance from toxic people or toxic environments, etc. I had to, put myself first, right? You're not going to lose 200 pounds if you don't put yourself first a lot of the time. It's just not going to happen. No way, no how. I promise you, any successful person on any journey in their life, how I started this episode, I mean it by every fiber in my being. Every single successful person that you'll ever meet in your life, they didn't have any strategic, selfish tactics on their journey. I promise you that. You can ask anybody that. You have to be strategically selfish. And again, I'm making it very clear. Remind yourself this, strategically selfish, okay? I'm not saying be a selfish asshole. Just think about yourself 24/7. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about specifically when it comes to hitting whatever goal, hitting whatever dream, achieving whatever greatness you're trying to achieve, man. You have to find a way to be strategically selfish. And you're going to have tough conversations. You're going to have to make tough decisions. You're going to have to remove yourself from certain situations. You're going to have to do what's best for you a lot of those times. But I promise you, if you can find that balance and find that peace with yourself, you know what, dude? That I am doing this. I'm doing this for me, but I know what the end game is here. And once I hit that goal, dream, greatness, I won't have any regrets. None. And I promise you, maybe if you ask those guys, a LeBron, a Kevin Durant, a Deion Sanders, any regrets, I don't know. I'm not them. I can't answer for them. I don't. But I think if you ask them to their core, maybe they would give you answers, regrets of maybe how they left. Oh, maybe I could have had a more farewell ceremony, maybe been more, a lighter way of leaving or whatever the case is, right? Not have like the fans suffer or the pain of the fans that I left or felt abandonment, whatever the case is. But I promise you, before they go to bed, let's just say, I guarantee you, they go to their trophy case and they see those rings in that trophy case and they're like, you know what? Yeah. I had to do what I had to do for me at that time. So it is what it is. Love me or hate me, but I got the job done. I mean, I got my rings out of it. That was the goal. That's what I wanted to do. That's what I got done. It is what it is, right? So love it or hate it, debate it or not, it doesn't matter. These are facts, right? I'm not giving opinions. These are sheer facts that I'm giving you, right? And that's pretty much that I want to kind of let you guys know, right? Just always know that every journey is tough, right? Any journey, man, whether it's losing weight, whether it's going on a journey, trying to get that promotion at work like I talked about, trying to win a championship for your team like those professional athletes, trying to accomplish something, right? Climb Mount Kilimanjaro, go skydiving, right? Whatever it is, right? Even like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, man, you gotta like I'm sure you can't just wake up and be like, I'm going to go climb Mount Kilimanjaro. You got to put some work in on how to freaking climb. If you never climbed a mountain in your life, right? You got to be strategically, smart. You got to be strategically selfish. You're going to have to practice that, right? You're going to have to practice mountain climbing just like skydiving. You're going to have to be strategically selfish. You're going to have to practice skydiving and the parachutes and all that stuff too. So I'm just throwing out random things where I'm telling you guys that you're going to have to be strategically selfish if you want to achieve those goals, right? So that's all that I'm saying. Don't feel guilty, I guess is my point to wrap all of this up. Don't feel guilty. If you're that determined and you want it so bad and you have to have it so bad as bad as I feel, as bad as I want to be great and want to be in the best shape of my life, and as bad as I want to hammer away at the gym every single day, there's no better feeling, right? I mean, I got to do what I got to do. And, I have to be strategically selfish a lot of the times, and I'm okay with that, and I'm at peace with that. And again, I think going back to LeBron and KD and Deion Sanders, I think, not to speak for them again, I'm making myself very clear, but I think they're at peace with it too, man. They look in their trophy cases, 2 rings each, they go to bed, they got their rings out of it. Love me or hate me, right? So that's pretty much it. I just want you guys to understand that, I think the moral of the story is, right, I want you guys to have a mindset to win at all costs. Just win, man. Whatever that goal is, go after it. It's like that clip that I always show my son when Iman Shumpert talks about Kobe talking about, you have to put your eggs all of your eggs in one basket. All of your eggs in one basket. And I think Iman Shumpert was like, Kobe, what about a plan B? And then Kobe was like, find more eggs. Right? Typical Kobe answer, right? Find more eggs. Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. Find more eggs, man. Do whatever you got to do. Just like he did, right? He had to literally take the medal off of his neck when he beat Spain. Pau Gasol was his teammate. For you guys who don't know, he was his teammate on the Lakers, but he was playing against Pau Gasol in Spain. They come back to training camp because they just lost that summer to the Celtics. They come back to Lakers training camp, and Kobe has his medal hanging in Pau Gasol's locker. Pau Gasol's like, what is this? And he turns around, he sees Kobe just staring at him. Just staring at him, stone cold. Now that's fire. That's fire, right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. He was being strategically selfish. Kobe was right there. He knew, I cannot win a championship without you, pal. I need you. What happened? 2 titles. That's what happened. So, hope you guys enjoyed this content. That's it for today. Hit that subscribe button on my YouTube. Smash that for me. You can check out my podcasts on audio on all platforms. Spotify, Amazon, you name it. It's there. My link tree is in the link in my bio. My Instagram handle at Raheel Wallbreaker200. So excited. Episode 8. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And looking forward to talking with you guys soon. Take care. Wallbreaker200 signing off.